Many thanks for choosing us. This afternoon, the minority in Parliament says it is going ahead with its investigations into allegations of impersonation against Dom Kwabenya MP Sarah Juasa for Notong MP Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa alleges someone else took her place on the floor during approval of the 2022 budget. Member of Parliament for Notong Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, who disclosed this exclusively to JoyNews, said examination of footage available suggests Ajua Safo, who had been on an extended medical leave since August, portrayed someone else.
I must place on record that following pictures and videos we are reviewing this morning, it is becoming quite apparent to us that there may be a case of impersonation. The lady who was presented as Ajua Safo, it's beginning to appear that she may not be the one. And it's a matter that we are investigating seriously and we are probing further. And I'm sure in subsequent hours, we will make our decision and what we would like to do clear on that matter.
That's a very serious allegation there, Mr. Ablakwa.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Because we are reviewing footage and we've spoken to some of your colleagues in the media who were not even allowed to come close to that person to interview her. So whoever that person is, we will get to the bottom. We are taking a very serious view of that, and I'm sure that it will be the basis for some inquiry moving forward.
Earlier on, we saw chaos in the chamber as members of Parliament tried to do business of the House. My colleague, Kwesi Parker Wilson, has been there monitoring events for us. Parker, bring us up to speed. What led to this chaos?
There's a total breakdown here in Parliament, I should say. The members of the minority and the majority are disagreeing over a motion to reverse the approval of the 2020 budget that was done or conducted yesterday. You remember that one-sided majority NPP House approved the 2020 budget whilst reversing the Speaker's earlier ruling that was last Friday. Today, Haruna Dusu has moved a motion to rescind or set aside the approval of the budget yesterday. Well, that generated a lot of controversy. In fact, the debate on this motion has lasted close to 2 hours. And even after that, there hasn't been any resolution. Now, I will take time and then break down the information to you. So when Haruna Dusu moved the motion, well, the Speaker first of all indicated that there was no prior approval, prior notice to him with regards to the motion that he wants to move. Per the practice of Parliament, if you want to move a motion of that nature, you have to notify the Speaker in advance. Joe said we should indicate to us that Haruna Dusu did not do that. However, he decided to consider the motion and, of course, gave him the chance to do so. And Mahama Yarga of Boku Central also seconded the motion. After concluding of debate, the majority leader prayed the Speaker, Joyce, to ignore the minority's plea or request. When the Speaker was ruling, in fact, he mentioned that, just to be on record, the Deputy Speaker is not a Speaker of Parliament. He made that clear and proceeded to make his ruling. There, the NP for Asamwase, Muntaka Mubarak, raised an objection indicating that, well, there is a motion before you, and that motion, you would have to put it to a vote so that the MPs can vote on the motion. You cannot rule whilst a motion has been put before you. So whilst the Joyce was speaking, Muntaka Mubarak was also speaking. There was a clash of dialogues. I mean, before we realized the Speaker has ruled, dismissing the motion put before him by the minority leader Haruna Dusu. And the moment he did that, he suspended sitting for 1 hour because the NDC MPs were rushing towards where he was seated. And this is why I bring in Snobe, the Ashaman member of Parliament, into our conversation, because Aisha, in the midst of the chaos, he decided to, well, I want to engage him. Honorable Hakumsin, can you let me do this interview quickly with Honorable Hakumsin is trying to disrupt the interview with and that's not well. He's here with me. Honorable, I saw you clearly taking away the Speaker's chair. I mean, I want to understand why you did that. You took away the chair, the Speaker's chair.
Oh, I didn't just take the Speaker's chair. I did that on the notion and the ruling of the Speaker, of Honorable Joe Osei-Wusu, who is the Deputy Speaker. He said a Deputy Speaker is not a Speaker, so he's not the Speaker. But I was of the view that if you are not the Speaker, why then do you overturn the ruling of the Speaker? That is my point. And if you are not a Speaker, why sitting in that chair? Then the best thing is that we have to preserve the seat for Mr. Speaker to come.
No, we're going to attack him or what?
No. Why?
Because the way you moved towards...
No. By that time, he had left. I wouldn't have attacked him. Nobody would have attacked anybody. We debated the issue. And the point here is that when a motion is put and seconded, the debate comes in, and then you put it to vote. If you are going to dismiss the motion, you have to do that before even it is seconded. And so in this case, you have allowed 2 hours of debate. Then you are saying you are dismissing the
But I want to be clear. In fact, when Joe Wise was speaking, he indicated to the entire House that there hasn't been a prior notice, an advance notice to him on this particular motion. And yet he decided to listen to the argument by the minority. So there were those who have argued that if you want to be technical about this issue, there was no motion before the House.
If there were not, or he was not prior noticed about the motion that was put, the onus lie on him to just dismiss it at the spot. He was supposed to dismiss it, that there was no motion before me. I was not given prior notice that this motion was going to be tabled, so therefore I dismiss it. Go and come properly. But you have allowed the motion to stand, to be seconded. When the motion is seconded, it means it stays. You've allowed people to debate. So much debate from both sides. Now, you say the next thing he could have done was to do what? To put the question. Now you said the motion, you are not the Speaker. A Deputy Speaker is saying you are not the Speaker. And when you look at our orders, standing orders, Order 13, it's saying that when the Speaker is out and the clerk announced it, then the first Deputy Speaker assumed the seat of the Speaker with all the authorities and other things. And that was what Honorable Apenyo-Makin relied on yesterday to make his case. And so therefore, if today you are saying you are not the Speaker, and for that matter you cannot rule on this issue, or we cannot count you as a Speaker, which we are not supposed to vote, to have been voted, or to be added as a quorum, to form a quorum, to transact a business, then we, henceforth, we will start calling him Joe Wise or Honorable Joe.
Start calling him Joe.
Yeah, Honorable.
But the standard order says you have to refer to him as the Speaker. Any member who mounts the Speaker should be.
He said he is not a Speaker.
No, but it is not yours to say. It is about the standing orders that you have to comply with.
And so what happens to the standing orders today? If the standing order is saying that a Deputy Speaker is a Speaker, any member who mounts that podium, who mounts that seat, becomes a Speaker, a presiding member. And you are saying you are not a Speaker. You declare that you are not a Speaker. So we have to refer to you as such. That you.
So that was Parker Wilson speaking with Ernest Nogbe, who was the one who attempted to pull the chair of the first Deputy Speaker in Parliament, and that also resulted in that chaos we saw in the chamber. Parker is back. Let's listen to him.
To come and give us the next line of action. We are just waiting for our leaders. Whatever decision they take, we will oblige by it.
What decisions do you expect that your leaders take on this matter?
Well, I have trust and faith in our leaders, so any decision that they take, we will abide by it. We cannot preempt. I cannot preempt.
But what are you expecting?
Kind of decision.
You don't want to preempt, but what are you expecting?
No, you see, definitely the country will have to move on. The country will have to move on. There cannot be stalemate forever. And so therefore, if they all agree on one issue or the other, yesterday the finance minister was saying that they have taken into consideration some of the issues that we raised. And our problem is that if you have taken into consideration some of the issues that we've raised, then better still, you have to lay them before us. If these things are not laid before us, we do not know. Ghanaians do not know. But they are just worried about the statement that the budget was rejected on Friday. And so therefore they could not bring that the revised budget to the table. So if they are able to come out with certain decisions, on that line that, okay, we have agreed to meet you halfway, or whatever the notion and the decisions of Ghanaians, we have agreed to kowtow to some of these things. Why not? And lay it before us, make the Ghanaians aware of it. Then we are at peace. We are not rejecting the budget entirely.
We're live in Parliament and we'll bring you all the details. My colleague Winston Amwa, who is deputy head of the political desk here at JoyNews, joins me for a conversation on this. Winston, total disappointment from, to say the least, from our members of Parliament. The way they've conducted themselves in these last few days.
Well, actually, you can also say that it's been a deepening of our democracy. About the rejection of a budget in the Third Republic. We saw that happening on Friday. We're told that has been reversed. Now, if you look at the motion of rescission, so we're rescinding the decision to reject the budget. And the argument from that point would be, okay, so that particular decision valid, and then you're deciding to set it aside. There are lawyers who have argued that, look, when you are unhappy with what happened on Friday, what you do is to go to the court to say there's an illegality and so it should not stand. What Parliament did on Tuesday was to say that, well, this is a decision we took on Friday, but we want to reverse that decision, some lawyers have said. But for me, the most important thing here is that we're seeing a deepening of our democracy. When the president was giving his victory speech on the 9th of December 2020, after the Electoral Commission declared him a winner of the 2020 elections, one of the things he said was that the numbers we saw in Parliament was an indication that Ghanaians wanted us to work together. And so going forward, there was going to be a consensus building and collaboration between the majority and the minority. It was for that reason the president went into Parliament during his inauguration and talked about how he was hoping that we would look at, dealing with other issues through consensus building, the fight against Galamsey. He talked about wanting to bring Ejapa back. Yesterday, you heard the finance minister say, well, Ejapa estimates are not even part for the estimates in the 2022 budget statement. So I see this as a deepening of our democracy. You've seen the issue being taken to court. And so when the Supreme Court rules, for instance, going forward, we will know whether or not the Speaker can count himself as part of members present and whether what transpired on Friday is legal or not. It only goes a long way to deepen our democracy. Yes, on the face of it, we would say this is bad, this is a total disappointment because it's not, the statistics are not good enough. You don't want to send this kind of signal to the outside world. But that is democracy.
Well, in the outside world, we've seen similar things happening there.
Exactly, and our democracy is only... our fourth Republican democracy is 29 years. And so these are sort of things you would see. And if we take it in good faith, test our laws, going forward, we wouldn't repeat them because there'll be clarity on them. So that's how I see it.
But more worrying is the posture taken by the minority following breakdown of engagement and consensus building. Definitely, this will have an implication on the business of the House, particularly when they are agreeing on motions. Remember, the budget has been approved, the statement has been approved, but of course, government can still not spend until the appropriation bill is approved. This would be problematic if we're still finding ourselves here.
Again, yes, it would be problematic, but you asked the question, Parliament has always worked on a consensus basis. And so when there's a lack of consensus, when there's breakdown of talks, this is what you should expect. And so the minority is only saying we expected the majority to, engage us so we can decide on what to do going forward. So
let me have you hold because we need to go quickly to Parliament. Parker is with Cletus Avoka. He is also one of the front benchers for the minority. Let's go there live and listen to that conversation.
To debate. The law says that he cannot debate. Descend into the arena of an MP and then debate. If the law says so, the law says you should not debate, how can that law say that you can vote? Vote on it, something that you did not take part in deciding, in debating? That is certainly wrong. That is certainly wrong. So I liken this to a referee in a match. To a referee in a match. You are a referee in a match. You blow a whistle for a penalty for one of the teams, and you say that I want to take the penalty. You blow a whistle for, a foul or for throw-in. And you said, I want to go and make the throw-in. At the time that you are making the throw-in, who is refereeing?
But the argument has been made that he didn't vote in the proceedings. He only counted himself as a member of parliament representing Bekwai constituents.
That is not a full appreciation of what he did. They were 137. In that case, they didn't form, they were not half of the House, which is 138, to be able to take a decision. And he said that he is part of 138. He's a member of parliament for Bekwai, and therefore, as an MP, he's part of the 138.
So I want to know, this whole chaos, was it necessary? I mean,
it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. The majority side are taking a very entrenched position, and I think that doesn't augur well for them. I have had occasion to advise some of them that if you are on the majority bench or the majority side, your duty is not necessarily to win the debate, but your duty is to get the decision so that your program can go on. They want to win the debate on the floor and get the mandate again to go and then do their programs. You cannot have that. That is why the principle is that let the minority have their say and let the majority have their way.
They are having their way. I mean,
they are having their way and they want to have their say. That is where we have the problem. They don't know. They don't appreciate the fact that with this hung parliament, you must be concerned about consensus building to be able to have your programs go through. I was a majority leader in 2010 to 2013. At that time, the difference between NDC and MPP was 9. In fact, it was 8. We were 119 and they were 111. Difference 8. And they took 40 MPs out as ministers and deputy ministers. So at every time, or every material time on the floor, we were in the minority. But I had to adopt a strategy of consensus building and being a team player. Much of the time, I'll call Che out, we discuss things. Before we even come here, I might go to his office and we discuss things and the rest of them. This is what they don't want to do. This type of ego doesn't help us. They are undermining the concept of consultation. Democracy means consultation. Democracy means consultative discussion and meeting. If they are able to employ that one, we'll go with them.
I see. Now,
there's a problem today. It's not only their side that will be affected, the whole parliament.
Now, the Speaker has suspended sitting for 1 hour. Yeah. What should we expect from the minority upon when the House resumes force?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know whether our leadership is going to call us to discuss or not. But I expect that within this 1 hour, the majority leadership will be able to reach out to the minority leadership and then to tell them that, look, let's bury the hatchet. Let's sleeping dogs lie. Let's put Ghana first rather than anything. Let's put this legal gymnastics first and talk about the larger interests of Ghanaians. I expect them to reach out to the minority and not the other way.
If that is not done, what then?
It becomes a challenge. We, as mature people, we will try to do what is necessary to move Ghana forward. But compromising on illegalities and then the unconstitutionality and the rest of them is not part of the program that we have in this parliament. We were prepared to compromise, and they did that. They met Monday and then yesterday for hours. And then we drew their attention to some of the areas that we were concerned about, e-levy, Ajapa deal, Accra, and the rest of them. And initially, I hear they were prepared to accommodate some of the issues. You have to have concessions. You concede here and then stand here and whatnot and whatnot. That is the meaning of if you want to have a consultation and the rest of them. They did that. And they said that in the afternoon after lunch, they will meet again to frame the earlier decisions. They met in the afternoon and then reneged and said that what they read in the Constitution earlier is what they, in the budget earlier is what they stand for. I think that that's unfortunate. They are embarking on entrenched position, and that will not help them against the background of this hung parliament.
Thank you very much, Honorable Cletus Avocat, there on the back of the hang parliament. Of course, Edward Bauer and Kwame Agbeja, they're very upset. In fact, I saw Kwame Agbeja. Honorable, please come briefly. I saw you very upset today. Why were you so upset in the chamber this afternoon?
Well, it's quite obvious that the NPP knew what they did yesterday has no basis in law. They tried to maneuver and say all sorts of things. Article 102, 104, and our standing orders are quite clear. Mr. Speaker, I was surprised my good friend, Honorable Jose, who even said, and you heard him, I'm not a speaker. And I can't understand. We elected him to be a speaker, and he enjoys privileges and other things. And I regard him a lot. You remember even all of us call him a wise speaker. But what he presided over yesterday was an illegality. And we were thinking that today, all of us are here. So you can put a vote. But they ran away. Once again, you knew that their numbers were not there. But for me, it's a sad day for our democracy. Because Speaker could have just accepted our motion. Because yesterday, it was the same way we watched on telly how Honorable Chairman Bonsu accepted and brought the motion. So I don't know what the NPP is scared of once we are in the chamber.
The argument is that there's no motion before the House.
There's a motion before the House. He decided to say that the motion that Honorable Haruna moved, he was not proud. He didn't write.
And you know the record.
We challenged him to bring the record that Honorable Chairman Bonsu gave him in terms of proud notice. Did you see him bring any record? He couldn't, because there's one. They can manufacture one before they come. But we know that he's just not being fair on this matter, because the MPP is determined to make the illegality they did yesterday to stand. And it's not going to stand. You know what's going to happen?
What's going to happen?
Look, until Mr. Speaker returns, this House will be 137 at best, isn't it? And if we vote, and it's 137, what does that mean? It's a loss, isn't it? So nothing will happen in this House. We can come to work all right, but we cannot take any decision. On any day, pound for pound, they will be in a minority, including today. Count them, they are less than our number. So if we take a vote today, we'll beat them. So to avoid that, they will use the tactics they are using. But you see, they should worry Ghanaians. This is not the democracy Ghanaians are looking for.
That is what they are saying, that why don't you, concede?
No. You see, the same thing they did during the election. They cheated us, beaten us, killed some of our people. Every Ghanaian says, oh, you go to court. They went to court, manipulated whatever they did. We accepted it. Today, we have people of SAL, not part of, they are not represented here. They never voted and anything. And even with that, we still have some constituencies that are being contested that we thought we won, but the court is refusing to pronounce on them. How long can the country expect NDC to be going back? In fact, you had news about we saying that, okay, and even the chief whip said it, where we have gotten to, what we need to do is to take on board the concerns of majority of Ghanaians, e-levy and other things, and say, okay, this is what we can offer. Yesterday, they went around, and NPP insists that they want to maintain everything. We can't go into a negotiation expecting to get everything you want. So the onus is on the NPP to respond to what the Ghanaians are saying. And you cannot use Parliament to bulldoze your way through. God knows why Honorable Bagbin is supposed to be the one sitting in the chair, and why Parliament is like this. It is supposed to augment the expectations of Ghanaians and for us to do things better. And we are ready to do that.
And so, sitting suspended for 1 hour, when you return, what should Ghanaians expect from the minority?
Well,
because you were really agitating on the floor.
Yes, because I can't understand why the speaker said he's not a speaker. I can't understand how anybody, I've not been to law school before, would read Article 102 or 104 any other way. The person, in fact, if you read our standing orders, the definition of speaker even includes the person presiding. So today, if we decide that the first and the second deputy speakers are not around, this House can decide to make me a speaker temporarily. Once I sit there, I cease to be a person who qualifies to vote. And we understand that. So until we get to a point where the laws of this country, that's the constitution and standing orders, are interpreted judiciously, we're not going to have any common ground to work with.
So with the 2022 budget, you still insist that what happened yesterday is illegal?
It is rejected. What they did yesterday is an illegality. At best, they were 137. Because Mr. Speaker was not part of it. So if they claim we were 137 and our decision was not right, why is they are 137 right? So if they like, anybody will say that, okay, if that's the case, all of you have done it wrong. That's assuming without admitting. Let's start afresh. Let's put it to vote and see what will happen.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Kwame Aboja, the Member of Parliament for Adaklu, there indicating that, let's start afresh and see what happened. If you consider the NDC, what they did was wrong, of course, you can also perpetrate the same illegality that happened yesterday. So, as I mentioned, the House is suspended for an hour. They are yet to return. You understand that Joyce, being the Speaker of Parliament now, assuming the Speaker's role, is engaging the leadership of the House, i.e. the majority and the minority leadership, to build some level of consensus. So it is the hope that when they return, the minority guys is hoping that when they return, there will be some consensus built between the leadership, and they will follow the orders from their leaders. So let's wait and see within an hour, and then we'll bring all the update to our viewers who are expectant of the latest update in Parliament.
Definitely, this is something we are monitoring to bring to date our viewers on all the happenings in Parliament. Definitely, we also know that there's a press conference which is going to be held by the minority. We have all of that for you. But Winston Amwa is still here with me. Winston, earlier we were talking about the conduct of members of Parliament in there and how they've taken the interests of their constituents, whether they've taken it at heart or they're doing their own personal bid. Well,
I mean, Aisha, it's important you ask yourself the question, if you're a member of Parliament, would your constituents support, for instance, a 1.75% levy on electronic transactions? You're there as a representative of the people. And Cletus Avoka makes a very important point. And Cletus Avoka, who's been majority leader before, and has been in the House since 1993. He lost in 2004. He came back in 2009, and then he lost also in 2016, and is back again. He's one person who's been in Parliament for a very long time. And he makes a very important point. When Parliament talks about the minority having their say and the majority having its way, it is very instructive. The fact that in a debate, the minority, yes, would win the debate sometimes, but the majority would carry the day.
But what happened Friday and
yes, but the most important thing,
Tuesday,
what happened on Friday?
We don't know whether there's a majority or there's a minority.
And that's something the court will determine. But for me, Aisha, the most important thing is, with this hung Parliament, consensus building is what would win. Cletus Avoka makes a point about when he was in Parliament, and you were a parliamentary correspondent also at the time. In 2011, at the time we were about to pass the Appropriation Act, you realize that Member of Parliament then for Amenfi East, Joseph Boahinedu, who is today the CEO of Cocoa Board, raised an issue. It was the last day of sitting. Parliament had to come together, make the changes, because if those changes had not been made, government could not spend from 1st January.
And that could bring the whole nation to a halt.
Exactly. It is something that happens. We have seen Dua Jahu in the chair as First Deputy Speaker, suspending parliamentary sittings and, urging urging both sides of the House to agree, and then they would come back and inform the Speaker so a decision would be taken. The point is, look, if nothing changes and the minority is bent on ensuring that, they come in 137 every day and put everything to a vote, if there has to be a vote on the estimates of MDAs based on Article 104, which says that when there is, equal number of votes, the motion is lost. It means that we're going to end by the 14th or 15th of December when Alban Bagbin comes in, not doing anything. If you are a majority, is this what you want? No. If you're a majority, you want to see government business progress.
Definitely.
You say you want to reduce the e-levy by 0.25% to 1.5%. You say, I want to generate 6.9 billion Ghana cedis because I want to expand the economy. I want to develop the economy. The Ghanaians say, no, we cannot afford to pay 1.75%. What do? Do you consider a reduction? The Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research have said, why don't you consider 0.5%? Because in Uganda, even when they consider the 1.0%, they eventually reduce it to 0.5%.
That's where the in conversation gets interesting, because now your constituents who have voted for you to be there to represent them see that you're not having their interest at heart.
And that's where, if you're the majority and the minority is proposing a 1%, look, get back and negotiate. They say they want a 1%. You say you want a 1.5%. Can you agree on, say, 1.2% or 1.25%?
So that you meet each other
halfway. Let the minority also agree that, look, we need money. The minority said, look at your expenditure. What expenditures can you cut? Under the circumstances, you cannot do anything about wages and salaries, which is estimated at 35 billion. You cannot do anything about interest payments of 37 billion. What can you do about goods and services? Can you reduce the goods and services? If you can, reduce it. What about statutory payments, government transfers? You cannot do anything about them. These are statutory payments that you must engage in. You can, however, do something about capital expenditure. But how is that going to affect the economy also going forward? And we've talked about, some of these things. So government has some options available to it. When it happens like that, you may probably consider a reduction in capital expenditure of 16 billion to maybe say 12 billion, 13 billion. There could be an impact. But then you say, this is what is going to happen to me because of, our inability to generate a lot of income. Some of us who said to you that, look, the moment you say that the number of adult Ghanaians known to taxpayers or known to the Ghana Revenue Authorities increased from 4% to 86%, the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, for instance, has been making some suggestions. Yeah. Why don't you engage further and find out how you can, do this? They've talked about the fact that, look, when it comes to Momo transactions, and these are financial transaction taxes, when it comes to Momo transactions, look at it and look at which transactions are for the payment of goods or services. Those ones you probably may say, okay, hold on a minute. Those that are gifts, for instance, when there are gifts in there, you look at it and say, well, okay, you need to pay your gift tax. Gift tax is what? It's more than the 1.75%.
It's in there.
Exactly, and it's more than the 1.75%. So that's an avenue you could actually look at. Yeah. So start nicely, you may go for it. How about even a consideration of, okay, probably doing this for a 2-year period and saying, let's start with 1.25%, we'll reduce it to 1% the following year.
All these options that could
there.
Be brought to the table to make the conversation work out. My worry is that this is not the first time Parliament has had to negotiate, have engagement, both sides to agree on something that is in the chamber for approval. But this time around, I'm just trying to lay my hands on why the engagement has broken down. Do you know what are your sources saying?
Well, there's a lot of political gain in all of this also. It should be made very clear that once you have a hung parliament and you're a minority and Ghanaians complain, you should make political capital out of it. And that is why, in Parliament on Friday, we had 137.
From both sides.
From both sides. As the votes and proceedings.
No, on Friday, I'm not sure they were 137.
Well, according to the votes and proceedings, members present were 274.
Okay.
And you realize that 137 persons voted to reject the budget, and it was 0. Now the point is that for that motion to have been successful, you needed, the majority side to have all members present and voting against it. And voting for it. Unfortunately, that did not happen because we know, based on the votes and proceedings, that Sarah Adwoa-Safo was not in Parliament on the day. So the majority did not have the numbers.
Yeah.
And if you are a minority, and they made a point, look, whatever is going to happen in years to come, reference will be made to this. But the minority, and you realize that in the course of the debate, Ibrahim Ahmed, Member of Parliament for Banda, asked where the finance minister or his representatives were. You have been a parliamentary correspondent before. I have been a parliamentary correspondent before. We saw Seth Tekpe in the time, always in the chamber when they were discussing Parliament. When discussing the budget. Yeah. You also saw, if he wasn't around, you saw Fifi Kweti at the time, who was Deputy Finance Minister in there. Yeah. At the end of it all, you find Kobna Dufo coming in there. But the question was, why didn't anybody show up at the time? Look, when it comes to consensus building, you should be seen as wanting to play ball.
Yeah.
If you're seen as being hard, whoever has the power would not budge also.
Definitely.
And that's the position the majority find themselves in now, because the minority has the numbers.
And of course, something must give. You must give in something. If you go to the consensus table and you're not willing to give, then we'll find ourselves here all the time.
So the point now is, if we're not able to reach a consensus, Parliament may have to continue to sit up until the 31st of December, when Alban Bagbin is in now, to consider all the estimates and then pass the appropriation bill.
All right, so we are told that the press conference by the finance minister has been called off for now. We are still monitoring and see if it comes on, we'll bring it to you. But we're hearing that it may be held tomorrow. But be that as it may, we're still following and we'll bring that to you. But right now in Parliament, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu is addressing the press, and we're taking you live to Parliament right now.
To deepening our democratic ethos, that's your contribution for better accountability, and that's your contribution to demand accountability from institutions such as Parliament. A while ago, presiding, a Deputy Speaker of Parliament, who by the construction of our rules our standing orders in Order 109 assumes the role of a speaker and is not entitled under Article 102 of the Constitution to be part of a quorum, let alone be part of a voting process. So when you hear that yesterday a budget was approved with concessions only known to a finance minister, not known to the financial policy and budget statement, and not known to the August House of the Parliament of Ghana, how then can we exercise oversight over the purse when we simply don't have information on those concessions? Be as it may, many of the issues we raise on the floor of Parliament from our honorable members, including their own, in contributing to the debate, was to raise matters that are legal, that are constitutional. The Minister of Finance is reminded that he does not come to Parliament under Article 179 on his own authority. He comes on the authority of the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Therefore, he owes us a duty to demonstrate fidelity to the law and fidelity to Parliament as an institution. When you report on Ejapa and say that Parliament granted you approval, and we remind you that the wording is to reflect the resolution which was adopted by Parliament, that rectification must be an unnegotiated matter. Simplicity. You are to correct it. You have no option because you kept the wrong phrase or quote in your budget. We didn't. On Acre Energy, when you say Ejapa, and we serve you notice that today and tomorrow, we in the minority will not accept securitization of mineral resources. Without any security or collateralization, Ghana makes $130 million every year from mineral resources and its accompanying revenue, apart from its contribution to employment and contribution to our gross national product. Anyway, this afternoon press conference is a simple one. It's to remind President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo that the people of Ghana did not vest the governance of this country in his person alone as President of the Republic. Yeah. They gave him a mandate as executive president to work in tandem for the good of the Ghanaian people with the Parliament of Ghana, making it a hang. Today we have been told that deputy speakers are not speakers. Our standing orders have been set aside. Any of you here, open your standing order and read the definition of speaker. It includes deputy speakers and persons presiding, as is expected of them under Article 102 of the Constitution. When you hear the Constitution, and go to the record, I have used it on the floor of Parliament. When you hear the Constitution say, except otherwise as provided in the Constitution, those of us who understand constitutional law, it operates as a limitation that in the exercise of that authority and mandate, have respect to other provisions of the Constitution. In any case, is it our minority they want to teach Article 104? Go to the record. I, on Thursday, 25th, stated on the floor of Parliament, reminding Speaker Bagbin that tomorrow, Friday, I will invoke Article 104 of the Constitution. At that time, as boastful and arrogant as they have been, they said they will populate it. So today you have seen what population does. The first deputy speaker simply abandoned putting a question on a motion and opted to give a ruling. You don't rule on a motion. The motion was accommodated. The motion was seconded. It was debated. All he needed to do was for the House to decide. But they knew that on their side, their numbers were not enough. It's to remind President Akufo-Addo and the majority leader that majority in parliament is majority present and voting, not majority outside the precincts, the chamber, in the skies. No, members available, present and voting. That is what the Constitution contemplated, even in Article 104. You know, and we took them by surprise, and we'll be taking them by surprise in the coming days. In the coming days, many other motions will come by vote. Many other decisions will come by vote. I have cautioned that we mean well, because the economy of this country certainly should not collapse on any of us, not even on President Nana Akufo-Addo. That cannot be my wish. But he must govern with respect to the law and the Constitution. The first Deputy Speaker must respect our standing orders and respect the provisions of the Constitution. When I said, except otherwise as provided in the Constitution, if you come and read 104, and it provides, except otherwise as provided in the Constitution, it simply says, respect what is in 102. Otherwise, it has already been provided for on that matter. Therefore, respect it. So, our democracy should not suffer. We will demonstrate that from today, as I said, the business of Parliament, I will subject it to a new standard. And the new standard will be that on critical matters, vote. If they are more than us, they are more than us. If we are more than them, we are more than them. So they should know that the days of mobocracy is over, mob rule. The days when they disrespected us as an insignificant minority is over. It's over. And that the Parliament of Ghana must be respected. I'm particularly appalled that the Deputy Speaker, who ought to be holding the back of the Speaker, will abandon him midstream. You know, let me share this joke with you. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia been told tomorrow to act as president, then he does a reshuffle. That's what they are doing. When do people question it? When do you question it? Hold my back, watch my back, and it is that I have erred on what? And now he says he is not a speaker. So tomorrow, who presides? Maybe he is inviting us to just elect one of our own. We shouldn't get there. I have respect for him as Member of Parliament and as First Deputy Speaker. But at least we are all learning the lessons that it is not always the case that the majority will be more than the other side in the chamber, present and voting. So they must learn lessons. Then, more importantly, you saw what has been reported in the vote. I'm quoting him. I didn't vote. But yesterday he said, I'm part of it. So it means this decision was 137 of what? I leave it to you. No, 137 of what number? 137. So when you say 1/2, there is no 274. When you divide it, you know what you want. But 275, when you divide it, are you going to get 137.5? I leave it to you. So when you say a decision was taken, overturned, because it was taken by 137, they have confirmed for me today, they've brought into my bed, that their decision was also 137. That is why we are strong, that it is as unconstitutional as they purport, that our Friday decision was unconstitutional. But get the difference. Do you know why the First Deputy wanted to announce that he's part of a quorum? He wanted them to have 138. Remind him that on Friday 26th, they were part of the quorum which took the decision. So we are better. And therefore, the Friday decision was better than theirs. He is boastful that he was part of a quorum. They were part of the quorum when the 137 rejected it. A walkout does not mean you were not present in Parliament and participating in the business of Parliament. Therefore, Speaker Alban Bagbin couldn't have been wrong with his ruling, because they only walk out to avoid Article 104.3, which says where there is a parity, the vote is lost. So we were 137, less one Ajua Safo, they were also 137. Presumptively. Then let me address the more important issue. Quorum. If it is not raised, because we are masters of our procedure, business goes on. Number at voting, because we are masters of our own procedure under Article 110, business goes on. But you don't walk out. What does it mean? I'm not happy. Maybe they were expressing their disappointment in their own budget with the walkout. That is what it could mean, other than avoiding the defeat. I'll be happy to answer your questions. I hear that the Minister for Finance will address a press conference. And again, the media, laughable. How can you approve a budget, read the votes and procedure, and say that this budget is approved subject to concessions? The budget, as was laid by Ken Ofori-Atta and read on behalf of the President, pursuant to Article 179, was not accompanied by concessions. That's not Galamsey rights that he is to grant. That's not Galamsey rights he is to grant. And say that what concessions? So they simply must have accepted that a certain revision of the original budget was necessary for us, for the good of the country, to stand together. And as I indicated, we move extra mile to contain them, even to help them consolidate fiscally. Whilst we call for prudent expenditure, they just dismiss us with disrespect. Now we matter and will matter in the coming days. Okay, I'm happy to take a few questions.
Three questions. Yeah, leader, just a quick one. I've been engaging some of the NDC congress.
Yes.
And the claim is that there was no substantive motion before that.
Yesterday was a substantive motion. When we challenged him to produce a statement to the Speaker, he says he's not Speaker. So if a statement was made, I'll find out from Speaker Bagbin whether a statement was made to that request. You see, we know them well. Me, I didn't come as Haruna with my own rules. I just stated what he did yesterday and then behave as he behaved yesterday. So what is good for the goose must be good for the gander. Yep, another question.
Yes. Looks, I beg you, if you can.
Go ahead. No, that's what we did. No, that's what we did. We recognize that there's a speaker, there's a presiding person. It's not for nothing that the Constitution in Article 96 provides for 2 deputy speakers to assist the speaker. They don't assume the role of the speaker. That's why you have a vice president. He doesn't assume except when the president is absent. And even that is constitutional jurisprudence. When President Nana Addo Dankwa is in the sky going to London, you think he's no longer president of Ghana. He's still the president. But hold my back in my absence. Maybe I should teach you the constitutional theory of it. The Americans wanted to avoid what they call a constitutional interregnum, a vacuum, because of their attitude to war. So that midnight, if somebody has to take a decision, someone will be able to take it. God bless.
So that was Minority Leader Haruna Idrissa addressing the media, and he made his point clear to the media that they are challenging and are not happy with the conduct of the First Deputy Speaker, Joseph Owusu, yesterday. And they're saying that his comments that he's not the speaker leaves much to be desired, and he's sending a clear warning that going forward, the business of the House will be conducted on a different level. That, for me, is the word. He says everything that comes to the House for approval will be voted for. That should be worrying.
Well, that's in the absence of consensus building. And that's why, he's talked about they are willing to engage all the same because they do not want the economy to suffer. And once they do not want the economy to suffer, what it means is that the majority side should be engaging them. And, the points we have made in the past, I have made these points in the past that, yes, under the circumstance, the majority must engage. And if you must engage, you must not engage and say, I cannot do anything about these. We've talked about revenues. I mean, bridging the revenue gap, you must also look at your expenditure. So the question you ask yourself is, all the things we have put in the budget, are there certain expenditure that we can remove? And the minorities also talked about, for instance, putting in place, the continuation of the phase 2 of the Keta Sea defense to Blekusu and extended to other parts of the coast so that we do not experience the storm surge that we experienced in the past. That is additional funding. So you ask yourself the question, what else can be done? These are all the things that, are open to the majority. So you accept it and also say, can you allow me to do a 1.25% maybe? And that would be allowed. Yeah. At this point in time, we're faced with the prospect of not having the powers to spend in 2022. And I'm sure no government would want to do that. Yeah. And the advice of Cletus Avoka is, at this point, with a hung parliament, do not behave like the 169106. You don't have the numbers. Yep. And because you have ministers who are members of parliament, they may be engaged in critical ministerial work. And that may not allow them to be in parliament. And you've seen it happening before. There were instances, in the Parliament of 2009 to 2013, when the majority was in the minority on the floor, and the minority with the numbers tried calling for a vote, and you see at the time, it will be suspended for some time. The whips would try and mobilize their members and bring them in for parliamentary business to continue. Whatever happens, at this point, just as the president said on the night of the declaration of the 2020 elections, Parliament should be engaged in consensus building. The era of I have the numbers, it is not the case today. Yeah. And look, there are many persons who have said, we look forward to the day where there will be the ruling party or the governing party would not have the majority in parliament. And this is serving as a check also, because now the majority is forced to engage. Yep. If the majority doesn't want to engage, we will see what is going to happen. Yeah. It means that, our ministers should be in parliament every day. Doing parliamentary business. And that means that work of government will be and hope that nobody falls sick over the period, because every vote, every decision will be subjected to a vote. I think there's a way of going about this. Yeah. The government must begin to make concessions, and the government must begin to engage and must be seen to be engaging in good faith. And something must definitely give to be able to reach this consensus. Winston Amwa is deputy head of our political desk here at JoyNews. We're still live on the Pulse, and we are on all our social media handles. It's at JoyNews on TV. You can tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle is at Venana Aisha. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll be talking about the Omicron strain of COVID-19. Remember, we are told that we found our first case and it spreads through the world with speed.
Through the robust testing at the Kotoka International Airport, Ghana has detected the Omicron variant.
Welcome back to the Pulse. Let's talk more. With threats of possible surge after the Christmas festivities, the rise in cases with the fourth wave and the emergence of the new COVID-19 variant Omicron, the Health Ministry has activated its mandatory protocols to ensure at least 20 million Ghanaians are vaccinated by early January 2021. Health Minister Kwekwajiman Menu, who announced this at a launch of December at COVID-19 month, indicated vaccination certificates will be inspected to ensure compliance. He was speaking at the launch of the services drive to make December a COVID-19 month. Hannah Dame has more.
Health Minister Kwekwajiman Menu says before early January 2022, all health workers, security personnel, school staff and students above 15 years, all government workers and all commercial drivers are mandated to get the vaccine. He adds certificates will be inspected before entry is granted into some facilities.
It is also going to be mandatory to visit the following venues: nightclubs, beaches, sports stadiums or stadia, and restaurants. So all those who want to go to eat indoor restaurants, you should be vaccinated, and you have a way of checking on your vaccination cards before you're allowed into restaurants to eat.
The minister noted the country has enough vaccines to ensure that 20 million Ghanaians get the jabs by that time.
To ensure that the target of vaccinating approximately 20 million people in Ghana is achieved, the government of Ghana, through the COVAX facility, bilateral and other multilateral arrangements, has secured over 12 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines, which are being deployed across the country. Substantial quantities of these vaccines have been received in the last 2 weeks. Additionally, we have over 8 million doses in the pipeline expected before the end of this year. With these enormous quantities of vaccines available, we will have no excuse if we do not move closer.
Kwekwajiman Menu also outlined the rollout for the vaccination exercise.
Trained health workers will continue to be available at all health facilities and temporary health posts to administer the COVID-19 vaccine to all persons 15 years and above. In addition, mobile teams will move to towns and villages where they will be located at schools, churches, mosques, bus stops, burials, and market areas to vaccinate people.
COVID-19 ambassador and gospel musician Celestine Donko says, though she's received some negative feedback about her vaccination advocacy, she's urging everyone to get the jabs.
One of them said, Celestine, I'm disappointed in you. Do you know Jesus? He will not take the vaccine. But eventually we took it. So what shall I say unto Ghanaians? Go and take the vaccine, it's safe and effective.
For JoyNews, I am Hannah Odami.
Meanwhile, the country has recorded the Omicron variant at its borders. Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaji, who announced this, says that persons involved are from Nigeria and South Africa. They are currently on quarantine as sequencing for other samples are being conducted.
There are threats to the possible surge after Christmas. And that's the fourth wave. It's in many countries across the globe. That's a major threat for us. Secondly, there's the emergence of the new variant. And I must say that through the robust testing at the Kotoka International Airport, Ghana has detected the Omicron variant already. And the cases have come mainly from Nigeria and South Africa. The very first case that was detected through our sequencing was on the 21st of November. That's the very first time we saw the Omicron in Ghana. The good thing is that when we do all the community tests so far, we've not seen any Omicron within the community of Ghana. But of course, the danger is that if someone has Omicron and is incubating, it will not be found at the airport. And so we still have to be extremely careful, and that's the more reason why we must follow the vaccination, which is key to us.
Let's now cross over to Berlin, where our correspondent from DW, Thomas Sparrow, joins us with details of how Germany is dealing with the threat of the new Omicron strain of COVID-19. Thomas, how big of a problem is the new COVID variant posing to European governments?
It is posing a big problem for European governments. Various European countries have reported cases of the new variant, and this has prompted authorities to restrict travel from southern Africa. Here in Germany, authorities deemed South Africa and 7 other countries in the region high-risk areas. And this essentially means that airlines are only allowed to fly back German citizens and residents, and travellers must go into quarantine. But the new variant is also a challenge because it comes on top of an already very difficult situation with the Delta variant and record high infection numbers in countries like Germany or Austria.
So beyond this situation in Germany, how also, what measures have authorities taken to tackle it?
Well, there have been slight improvements in recent days if you look at infection numbers, but the situation still remains critical. Outgoing German Chancellor Angela Merkel said it was highly dramatic. Health authorities have reported record numbers of infections, even surpassing 70,000 a day. Daily coronavirus deaths have reached levels not seen since the beginning of the year, and the country recently surpassed 100,000 coronavirus deaths since the pandemic began. To tackle this situation, Germany has imposed contact restrictions, especially for the unvaccinated.
We know that Germany and other European countries have faced issues with the vaccination drive. How has restrictions helped in this drive?
Just under 70% of Germans are fully vaccinated. This is more than in other countries around the world, but it's lower than other countries in Western Europe. And it's one of the reasons why Germany has such a high infection rate now. Convincing the unvaccinated has been a very difficult challenge. Restrictions, however, have started to show some initial results. The number of people getting their first jab has surpassed 100,000 a day, and around 10 million Germans have already received a booster vaccination. Authorities, however, need this number to increase even further if they are going to stop the dramatic increase in infections.
Thomas Sparrow is with DW partners in Berlin. Now, Pharma says an international NGO leading the drive towards digitization of the health sector is rallying support to ensure its realization. Pharma says organized the 2021 Digital Health Week to discuss ideas to improve the digitalization of the health sector. According to Country Director of Pharma Access Foundation, Dr. Maxwell Entry, digitizing the healthcare will significantly improve the country's healthcare system. My colleague Kwekwa Sante has more in the following report.
Ghana's healthcare system is still significantly analog. Physical paper folders are still widespread in many health facilities in the country. It remains one of the biggest hurdles in Ghana's attempt to achieve universal healthcare coverage. But the question is how the country will be able to infuse digital health into its health system. Country Director of Pharma Access Foundation, Dr. Maxwell Entry, says the digitization of healthcare access will significantly improve the country's healthcare system.
The inefficiencies at the patient delivery level, where we can use technology to make patient delivery, healthcare delivery service efficient. You know, if someone is a diabetic or has diabetes and collapses in the middle of Central Business District of Accra now and is rushed to a hospital and the folder is stuck in a warehouse full of old folders, by the time the health staff are able to retrieve the folder and flip through to know that patient A actually has diabetes, we have something in medicine called the golden 1 hour. That golden 1 hour would have been lost and would have serious and adverse sequelae on treatments.
CEO of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Lydia Jan Selby, argued that it's very crucial to digitize healthcare to improve access.
Once we link everybody, then we can plan some other kind of services around prevention. We now want to think about preventing illness rather than waiting for you to be sick so we treat. So we are encouraging everybody, use the star 929, link with your Ghana card, and then we, together with Ghana Health Service and the ministry, we will give you preventive health services.
On his part, Executive Director of the Christian Health Association of Ghana, Dr. Peter Yeboah, expressed the readiness of his organization to partner the state and other relevant stakeholders to deepen digitalization in the health sector.
We are looking at how we can use digital solutions to improve supply chain processes so that, one, the three key elements of attaining universal health coverage, which is one, access, is improved to ensure that all people living in Ghana have access to services that are required. And the second aspect is quality. You observe that through digitalization, we have mechanisms for authenticating medicines. One of the key challenges with the entire system has to do with substandard, spurious, counterfeit, or low standard medicine.
There are over 300 people living with HIV/AIDS here in Ghana. As the world marks HIV/AIDS Day, the World Health Organization is calling on global leaders to confront the inequalities by ensuring equal access to HIV medication. We'll be talking more on this because there's a huge figure that the country needs to deal with, and especially with the infection rates. Let's have a conversation, and in the studio joining me is Dr. Kofi. He's a medical doctor. Good to see you, Doc.
Thank you.
And Johnson Kuranting, who is also a person living with HIV, has also joined me in the studio. It's a pleasure seeing you, Johnson.
Thank you.
Great. So let me start with you, Kuranting. It's always good to share some experiences. How have you been dealing with the stigma, for instance, with living with HIV/AIDS?
Okay. It's not easy though, but we're coping. Because, you know, in Ghana and in our community nowadays, people are refusing education. You try to talk to them and they are like, no, what they said, the myth, what I heard, that's what I accept. And they don't want to accept the truth. That formerly, there wasn't any treatment for HIV. So when you are HIV positive, you can pass airborne diseases and other infectious diseases to many other people around you. But now that there's treatment, people are living with HIV. Myself, I tell people and they are like, no, it's not true. And it's not easy when you are in the midst of people and you want to disclose. It's not easy. The stigma is so great. They are like, you are promiscuous, you are this, you are that. And the mode of transmissions are, you know, in a different ways. You can get it in a different way. It's not just being promiscuous. Yes.
Dr. Ode, how big is the problem, or how serious is the problem of stigma, the problem we're trying to deal with as far as people living with HIV/AIDS is concerned?
Okay. So, like Johnson rightly said, indeed, the stigma of HIV is still a very big problem in this country. And indeed, it's one of the reasons why we are still not achieving control of this epidemic. The reason is that something that people don't have much knowledge or they don't understand, they tend to fear. And I will say that even though we are still educating people and telling them about HIV, there's still a lot more work to be done.
Okay.
People still think by touching someone, you can get the HIV infection by using the same plates, cups, spoons with them. Even sitting on the same seats with them, you can get the virus. And so education, 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 which I keep stressing is the key. If we can throw more light on this virus and send the word out there that yes, even when you have the HIV virus, fortunately, the government has made it possible for us to get medication. And so a lot of people are actually having the virus and living their very normal lives. And if we go this way, indeed, it will reduce the burden of stigma, because the stigma drives them to hide because they don't want to be discriminated in any way. And it's hampering our fight against this virus.
I was very happy that, Johnson, you talked about the fact that you don't have to judge people because it's not everybody who got it, who is promiscuous or who has led a bad lifestyle. Are you kind enough to share with us how you got to know that you've contracted the virus?
Okay, so I was a peer educator myself, and I have been organizing outreach programs, which I once organized, and then I have to test by myself, and I did, and then I got to know. It wasn't easy, but I have to, you know, people are looking up to me as a peer educator.
Mm.
They come to me and they are like, I'm infected, what do I do?
Okay.
And I have to lead them to the facilities for treatment.
Okay.
And then myself.
Mm.
So what do I do now? I have to hold on and then fight for myself and then get to this far.
It's quite interesting. Now, when the COVID-19 pandemic broke out, one of the things that we're told were that there were a certain category who were vulnerable to the disease, and the people living with HIV/AIDS are one of those who are in that category. How did you deal with that? Were you ever infected with COVID-19?
No, please.
You never had it. How did you cope with that situation?
Okay, so with the COVID-19, we had persons living with HIV are part of those with underlying conditions.
Yeah.
So for me, I was very careful of myself. I know when to go out, what to touch, who to hug, who to even shake hands with. And then try to observe all the COVID-19 protocols. Okay, and then we just heard we have to take the vaccine. And so I went and then take mine, and then I'm cool.
Vaccine.
Yes, there are people out there who have been calling me, Johnson, so we persons living with HIV, are we part of, even today, most people call me, I'm like, yes.
Are you part of those going for the
vaccine?
Okay.
Yes. You have to go, because our immune system has already been compromised. So we have to take the vaccine. Yes.
All right. So, Dr. Odoi, we've been struggling to actually reduce the rate of infections. Where are we now?
Okay, so let me say Ghana has done well over the years in terms of trying to reduce the burden of HIV. And this has been seen in our prevalence having a downward or stable trend over the last 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
And currently our national HIV prevalence stands at 1.68. It's not just that, but the government has also put policies in place, like making sure this time when you go for antenatal, if you are pregnant and you go for antenatal, they definitely test you for HIV. And the moment you are picked up, or the moment you are positive, they start treatment.
Okay.
So we've had quite some good coverage over there. In terms of UNAIDS target that they gave to their member countries, which is the 95%, 95%, 95%.
Okay.
And by explaining, they mean 95% of the population who have the virus know their status, 95% of them who know their status are on treatment, and then 95% who are on treatment are virally suppressed. That is where we still have a lot of work to do. I think currently Ghana, we are at 58, 77, and then 68 in that order.
Okay.
So there's still a lot of work to be done. But there have been some pluses. For instance, like I was saying, with the pregnant women who transfer to their children, because this time it's mandatory that they test for HIV, we have had a coverage of, well, I think, over 70%. And hopefully by 2023, we would have achieved the 100%. But there's still a lot of work to be done if we are to achieve the 95%, 95% target.
Some time ago, I mean, we were told that, I mean, it's unprotected sex, number one, that is accounting for the spread. And so you go to places and you're giving free condoms. And nowadays, we don't see that. But I just want to find out, is it still unprotected sex that is leading the factors accounting for the spread?
Yes, yes. So there are other methods, like you have rightly mentioned, but still unprotected sex, it's leading.
Okay.
So of course, you can have it by use of sharps. If one person has it, and a sharp object pricks him, and then pricks you as well, it's possible you can easily get the virus. When the mother has it, he can also transmit it to the child. And then the not so common ones, like through blood transfusion or blood products. But by and large, unprotected sex is the main way by which most people are getting the virus.
Johnson, in your own case, were you able to detect how this happened to you?
I think it will be through sex. unprotected sex.
Okay.
Yes.
So when this happened, did you reach out to your partner to also try and test and see whether, she could also contract the disease?
Yes, she did. And she was also positive.
She was also positive.
Yes, she's now on treatment. She's fine, and everything is fine with us.
Oh, wow, interesting. Of course, so that is where, earlier I mentioned that now we don't see more of the awareness creation, the condoms that you go for. Everywhere you go, you get free condoms and what have you. It looks like the drive has died. Some time ago, we're told that the donors have stopped giving us money. What's our situation right now?
Okay, so when you mention money, for that one,
so it has to do with funding.
Globally, yes. Yes, the funding is needed. But for me, I think we should also look beyond the funding. In fact, we should start looking at this as a shared responsibility for us all.
Okay.
I have said that sometimes the only time you see that awareness on HIV is only on 1st December. But you agree with me that the moment we finish 1st December, the next thing we are preparing for is the festivities. People are going to meet their partners, people are going to have fun, get drunk, enjoy themselves. And very often, this advice we may have today may be thrown out of the window by then.
Okay.
So for me, we need the media. In fact, the media is a very important stakeholder. If we can highlight HIV at least quarterly or twice a year before the main day itself, I think the message will keep on ringing in people's ears. Because now people use a lot of smartphones, so there's a social media presence. There's also the opportunity to use the TV platforms like yours, which a lot of people listen to. Yes. So the funds is a problem, but funds is a problem everywhere in the world now. And of course, with the advent of COVID, you can only imagine. So we should look at it or approach from it as from a stakeholder's point. All of us hand in hand, let's help to reduce this epidemic.
But what's your own plan? What's your plan to help deal with this?
Okay, so I work with West African AIDS Foundation. We are a local NGO with a local clinic on site. And I cannot mention West African AIDS Foundation without mentioning people like Eddie Donton and Dr. Na Ashley Vanderpoy. Perhaps they are the only couple who I have known in this country who have been fighting HIV over the past 20 years. And we provide services not just in the treatment of HIV/AIDS, but also in the treatment of TB as well. And then we provide general services as well. But the West African AIDS Foundation also provides preventive medicine. So we also do outreaches, we do counseling, we do outreaches for people in the marketplace, we do them in schools. We have actually a mobile van clinic where we go to places that are not easily accessible. We get there, we test them for HIV, and for those that are positive, we treat them. We also provide counseling services as well. And we've been doing this for the last 20 years. Yes, so that has been our way of contributing. We still continue to do it and work in hand with partners as well.
Johnson, what's your message to the public, especially towards how people stigmatize people living with HIV/AIDS?
Okay, so to the public, I want everyone, every human to understand that this is human immune. Human, the word H there is human, not stones and not trees. So anyone can be infected. So you stigmatize me today, tomorrow you will be with me in my counseling room and you can't look into my face.
Yep.
So stigmatization, shame, denial, discrimination, we end it now. And then now, there's PrEP, there's ARV, there's PEP for prevention and treatment. So if you are HIV positive, go for your ARVs. If you are negative, go for your PrEP. If you think you are exposed to a person living with HIV, go for your PEP and leave.
Okay.
Use condom, live life, and live it well.
And these medications you're talking about, there are people who think that it's difficult to get, especially because the drugs are very expensive. Where can they get it? If, I mean, there's a person living with HIV/AIDS, how do they get these treatments?
So, as Doctor was saying, West African AIDS Foundation, we have a clinic, which is International Healthcare Center, which is part of G. We work hand in hand together.
Okay.
Sister something. So, you can have all your services there at the clinic. Yes. Whilst the West African AIDS Foundation will be doing their counseling, will be doing the education, the sensitizations, and the rest. You can have all what you want from the clinic.
And you don't have to pay for it?
They are free, yes.
Right?
Usually a token. So where when I say a token for our services, of course, when you come, you are in a nice air-conditioned environment. We have televisions, very nice ambience. So sometimes something very, very small, most of the time. But to add to what he's saying, the government has also come out with policies where you can also go for free medication within public hospitals. So once you have your insurance, you're entitled to free testing and free medication as well. Yeah.
I'm grateful for your time. Dr. Odoi is a medical doctor, and I've also been speaking with Johnson. Odoi Kofilabi is the name. He's a medical doctor. Johnson Kranting is a person living with disability. Thank you so much for coming. We're still live on The Pulse. Nomadic herdsmen in the Setrafam Plains district are threatening a face-off with police in the Agogo municipality following the alleged killing of their cattle by the police. The herdsmen claim the police have gone beyond the Agogo boundary where an operation enforced to rid the area of the herdsmen. Between January and August alone, the herdsmen claim to have lost 225,000 cedis due to the killing of the 50 cattle by the police. Nanaya Ojima traveled to meet affected herdsmen and has come through with this report.
Abdullahi Inusa took over cattle rearing business from his father. Today, he has over 300 cattle in the herd, but he claims to have lost many cattle in the police operations, a number he has refused to quantify in monetary value. He insists the killing of the cattle happened within the Setrafam Plains enclave, where the people have accepted activities of these herdsmen.
We have police in this district, so if our animals were destroying farms, the police in this area will be the first to stop us. We are living here legally, so why are we being disturbed by police?
Abdullahi is not the only herdsman affected by the operation of Asante Achem North Municipal Security Council. Muhammadi Abubakar has also lost some cattle to the operation.
They once arrested me for no reason. 7 of my cattle were killed. My child, who was with them, was also arrested. I had to pay 1,000 cedis for him to be released. They have killed several animals for nothing and seized my brother's motorbike. I reported all these cases to the police, but nothing was done. All we want is the authorities to come to our aid, or we will revenge.
The farmers say they have lost the best of their cattle, accounting to 225,000 cedis as at August this year. Though they insist they are working within the permissible limits of their district, they have consistently been targeted by the Security Council. They say further attempt to harm their herd will be resisted. Yakubu Musa Berry speaks for them.
We are preparing for ourselves. That's why in my end of my speech, I'm still retraining my people to have patience. But now their patience is over. We know the bush more than the police. That I want it to be clear. We know the forest more than the police. That should be clear. We always talk to them to be extra patient. The law will take its own. But if the law is not going to take it himself, then we will advise ourselves. We know what to do to protect our property.
In what form will it come, your advice?
No, that is my even the law says if you are forced, you should defend yourself. So we will defend ourselves.
Meanwhile, the Municipal Security Council at Asante Achem North has accepted responsibility for activities of the police. MC Francis Otibuatin says it is part of Operation Cowleg, which aims at dealing with nomadic herdsmen who sometimes destroy farms in finding grazing land for their cattle. He reviewed all cattle killed had moved from Secher Afram Plains into the Agogo territory.
So the policy of the municipality is that we don't need any cattle nowadays. But I think the government side has a different approach. They say they can contain the cattle. So if they want to contain the cattle, they shouldn't trespass. They shouldn't cross to our territory. So what we are doing is that we are guiding our frontier. So whenever they cross to our territory, we'll kill them. But that one, we don't compromise on that. Because they come and destroy farms and so. So if you know you can contain your cattle in your district, then don't let them cross the other side where we are planting our food stuff to feed Ghana and even beyond Ghana.
Survival has become a challenge for people here at Drobonso Dagomba line. According to them, their livelihood, which is the rearing of cattle, is under threat due to regular invasion by some security personnel. They want urgent steps to be taken to avert possible clash. For JoyNews, Nanaya Ojima reporting.
Now, Jima, with that report, we take a break on the post. Remember, you can join via all our social media handles and tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My own personal handle is @Nana Aisha. We'll take a break. We'll bring you more. Welcome back. Let's talk showbiz now. The Criminal Court 1 Division of the High Court has asked socialite Rosamund Brown, popularly known as Kwapin Polo, to go and serve her 82 days jail term left. The court threw out an appeal filed by lawyers of the actress on Wednesday, December 1. Kwapin Polo was handed a 90-day jail term by an Accra Circuit Court for publishing obscene material and violating the dignity and integrity of her 7-year-old son in a nude photo she posted on social media in June 2020. Though she served a period into her term, her lawyers appealed the judgment, considering it too harsh. On Wednesday, the court presided by Justice Ruby Aite found her appeal without merit, therefore ordered her to go and continue her 90-day imprisonment. Chairman of the Christian Council of Ghana, Reverend Joseph Obriabwa Mante, says some aspects of the punishment regime in the Proper Sexual Human Rights and Ghanaian Family Value Bill are too harsh. He proposes a reduction in the punishment from 5 years to at least 2 years. Speaking to JoyNews on the sidelines of the Capacity Building on Leadership and Development Summit for Selected Churches in Africa by AACC and WCC, he stated some of the sanctions in the anti-LGBTQ bill are too high. Therefore, he's asking Parliament to revise it.
Bill is that sometimes the offences that they said if you commit the offence, the penalty, some of the penalties are too high, and I would wish that Parliament would bring them down. That's my only comment. Where it is 5 years, it can be 2 years. Where it is 10 years, it can be 5 years. Things like that. Otherwise, but then beyond that, if you read the bill very carefully, I think it's very, very healthy, and it really speaks the mind of most Ghanaians, about 90% of us. Of course, you will have some 1% that will talk. They could be intellectuals, they could be lawyers and so on. But please, we are not just dealing with interpretation of law. We are dealing with the philosophy behind the law itself. We are dealing with what they call jurisprudence. And I think they should come back. People should come back. They are touching the souls of Ghana. And they should accept this bill They can amend a few things here and there that are peripheral. But the main content of this bill, we Christian Council and all the churches in Ghana have written to support this.
And that's where we part company on the Pulse. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. That's where you find more of updates of the developing stories. Up next is Let's Talk Showbiz. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.